first local station with news and high definition. This is 9 News Now.
Good evening. Tonight in your only local news at 7, military vote. The counting conflict over absentee ballots cast overseas. Foreclosure surge, more pocketbook pain for local homeowners, and deadly chase. An officer gives his life in pursuit of a suspect, leaving behind a community in mourning.
The only thing I could see was the parking lights were on.
I'm Audrey Barnes in Frederick. Officer Richard Bremer's cruiser ended up in this ravine. He was pursuing a suspect who wouldn't pull over.
As he called out the traffic stop and alerted other officers that he was not stopping, the officers were en route to back him up.
Bremer, a 5-year veteran of the force, died from his injuries. Police found the man he was after, 51-year-old James Sweeney, asleep at this motel.
There's a lot of question about vehicular homicide, manslaughter by automobile charge.
Bremer leaves behind a wife and 3 small children and 146 Frederick police officers.
Here's a guy that was out in the community, loved coming to work, and loved working, and that's what he did.
I'm Brittany Morehouse reporting from Lorton, Virginia. Success stories are rare in the world of foreclosures, but homeowners all over the state are taking on that battle, like one who lives here.
All my savings are gone. I have used my children's savings. I have used my own, and now I'm just paychecks to paycheck.
Sometimes it feels hopeless to Sandra Barrios, keeping up with the monthly mortgage payments, especially since 2 years ago she refinanced with a bad broker.
When I refinanced, it was not what he promised.
So Barrios is turning to free counseling help from Legal Services of Northern Virginia. A team of attorneys there are certified in housing counseling.
Everyone's case is so different, and everyone has their own certain facts and circumstances that a different solution would be appropriate for a different person.
For Barrios, that means hope.
No, I am not going to give up. Somehow I find, the way to pay my mortgage monthly.
Fox at a polling place in Springfield. Several retired military servicemen and women spoke out in anger today after 255 ballots from American citizens overseas were thrown out.
They're angry because they think many of those ballots are from military personnel serving in Iraq and Afghanistan.
It's disenfranchising our military, and frankly, I think it's very unpatriotic.
For any office to not recognize the viability and the validity of these federal write-in absentee ballots is disgraceful. It's sad, and it should make everyone sick.
It stinks, but it's the law.
Fairfax County's register says he has no choice in this election because the ballots do not contain the required witness address for write-in absentee ballots from overseas.
I want these ballots to count. It's a horrible lie.
Rocky Suleman says the law needs to be changed, but there's nothing he can do to count those ballots now.
And the numbers seem to show voter turnout could be up this election year. There are now about 3.4 million registered voters in Maryland, and that is up by about 10% from the just over 3 million in 2004. There are 1.9 million voters registered as Democrats compared to about 926,000 registered Republicans. Those numbers released today by the Maryland State Board of Elections. Now, with only 12 days to go until that election, 9 News Now at 7 o'clock continues to focus only on the issues. No rumors, no political attacks. And as we found today, that is not always so easy. Tonight, follow the candidates to Indiana and Florida.
The McCain-Palin tax cut is a real thing. We're going to double the child deduction for every family. We'll cut the capital gains tax, and we'll cut business taxes to help create jobs and keep American businesses in America.
I see some carpenters up here, carpenters for Obama. I see some teachers out here for America. I see Teamsters for America. Who's looking out for steel workers? Who's fighting for carpenters? Who's fighting for teachers? Who's fighting for Teamsters? That's the president I want to be.
Turns out we're having a pretty tough time digging up sound bites these days from both sides that don't attack the other candidate. Is it just us? Do you think the political attacks have increased with just a few days to go before we all go to the polls? Who does it help? Who does it hurt? Or is it just plain old worthless? Email your comments to mailbag@WUSA9.com. Well, there is no stopping this wild ride on Wall Street. Former Federal Reserve Chair Alan Greenspan was testifying on Capitol Hill today about the practices of some lending institutions.
Those of us who have looked to the self-interest of lending institutions to protect shareholders' equity, myself especially, are in a state of shocked disbelief.
And Greenspan went on to warn that the current global financial crisis will get a lot worse before it gets better, calling it, quote, a once-in-a-century credit tsunami. Montgomery County lawmakers delayed making a decision today on the issue of charging folks for an ambulance ride. Volunteer firefighters sure don't like the idea much. They're threatening a recall vote against any council member who supports that change. It could cost patients as much as $800 plus mileage anytime a county ambulance makes an emergency run. County officials say it'll save about $14 million. The search for a missing Fairfax County police officer is now sadly turned to a recovery mission. This is video from today's efforts to find 42-year-old Second Lieutenant Francis J. Stecco. Stecco, a 19-year veteran of the force, disappeared in Pohig Bay on Tuesday. Recreational boats are prohibited in that area. A big turnout tonight in Damascus, Maryland for the viewing of a 15-year-old boy who died in a car crash Monday night. Ryan Didone's being remembered by the folks who loved him. And even as they say goodbye, his family wants this to be a lesson for all teenagers.
A constant stream of visitors to the Lutheran Church of the Redeemer, friends and schoolmates of 15-year-old Ryan Didone and his parents.
Ryan was a really lovable kid. He treated you like he had known you all your life, no matter if he met you 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago.
Ryan was amazing. He was always fun. He always knew how to lighten the mood.
Damascus is where Ryan Didone lived and died, and 4 other teens were injured in a car crash Monday night. It's also where his father Tom is the commander of the Montgomery County Police District that covers the area.
Damascus is still a small town. Damascus is, and it's a police town.
Tom Didone, a longtime teen traffic safety advocate, spoke at a vigil at Damascus High a day after the crash.
Kids, you can never be careful enough. You can never be safe enough.
Captain Didone and his family invited the news media to be here this evening and at the funeral tomorrow in an effort to get the word out about traffic safety for teens. Between that and his composed talk in front of Damascus High School, it has his colleagues thinking it's something pretty remarkable.
The strength he demonstrated there was amazing, and I must tell you, if it was me, I don't think I could have the ability to do that.
But the focus today and tomorrow is on saying goodbye to Ryan.
I still find myself wanting to call Ryan constantly, but you can't.
Dave Statter, 9 News Now.
And as we noted, the funeral for Ryan Didone will be held tomorrow. Well, now we get to some good news. It's a bit of a follow-up tonight on the Tyson's Corner Santa who was fired. Now it looks like 51-year-old Michael Graham, who was going to get let go, has worked out a deal to get his job back this holiday season. News of the dispute sparked hundreds of calls, an online petition, and threats to boycott the mall. The party said they hope to have a final agreement in the coming days. Well, speaking of Christmas, it's the kind of weather we might expect that time of year. Topper, it's getting pretty cold out there.
Well, it's not crazy cold, but it's dropping right now. If you're going outside, a light jacket, a good idea. Here's your forecast first. For tonight, look for clear skies and cold again. Low temperatures around 30 in the suburbs, around 40 downtown, and winds will be light out of the east at about 5 to 10. We managed to make it to 58 for a high, and temperatures now are primarily in the 50s, although Winchester's back in the 40s, but 52 in Frederick, 52 downtown, and 54 in Leesburg. Some 40s showing up in Manassas and Culpeper. We'll come back. We will look ahead to the weekend. Right now, it looks like a 50-50 weekend. And you mentioned weather more reminiscent of Christmas time. We'll talk about the coldest air of the season coming in next week in just a bit.
Coming up tonight, millionaire in the making. What we can learn from a boy who's making it big even during the hard times. Plus, the woman at the center of the Duke Lacrosse rape case is speaking out.
This is very difficult for me, but this is something that I have to do.
Right now, we lose.